Uh, well, good morning to anybody who's watching, probably in the future because most sane people are currently asleep. I am not, obviously. I don't know why I'm wearing headphones. I'm not going to be listening to anything, at least as far as I know. If I change that, I'll change that. Yeah, so uh, the title might be clickbait, except for the fact that it's not. It's reality. Um, what is this? Oh, CNN. Oh, CNN. Yeah, so for edification's sake, at least as far as the details that I feel comfortable giving out, about just before midnight, I was surprisingly enough asleep in my bed, and then all of a sudden, you know, the night was broken, as it were. I'm still trying to find my brain. Oh God, this is just so ridiculous. Anyway, what do I hear but a clatter and a shout and a crashing? Now, as many of you may know from my previous broadcasts, my neighbors upstairs, well, hell, my neighbors upstairs and or downstairs, I have been troublesome of one kind or another over the last year or two. But tonight was different. Usually the noises I'm hearing from upstairs, while irritating, depending on the time of day, were almost always completely normal sounding sounds, just people moving around, normal domestic things. Tonight was something different. Oh boy howdy. Now, I don't know what happened before I woke up, but when I woke up, what I heard was muffled yelling and or screaming, and then a loud crashing noise of something hitting the floor, something very heavy, more yelling, and then sounded like something being thrown against a wall. And then everything went very, very quiet. And so I'm laying there and I'm thinking to myself, at the very least, there is a small child that lives up there, and you don't know the circumstances elsewise of what's going on. And so in an overabundance of caution, I called the cops. Now, I gotta say, the cops, they were quick. I mean, like, I got on the phone, I talked to the dispatcher for maybe about 2 minutes, right? Just giving a lowdown of what I heard and, just trying to, better safe than sorry and everything. And so two and a half minutes, I'm on the phone with the guy. And then I hang up. He takes my information, I hang up. And then I think to myself, well, I better be prepared in case they show up and need to talk to me or something. So I go to the window and kind of look outside to wait to see the cops pull up so I can be, prepared for a conversation or something. And just as I do that, I hear knocking on their door upstairs and movement around in voices. And it's the cop. They'd already shown up. They lickety split. I tell you what, the response time was amazing. I wouldn't imagine that around here, but it happened. And I was like, wow, they must have been just down the street or something. Anyway, I guess my timing had been perfect because someone involved in that apartment was outside at the time the cop showed up. And I think, given the context of what I overheard, because tell you what, the ceiling in this place is relatively thin for the sake of sound, but my front door, when it comes to people talking outside, it's practically crepe paper. Yeah, the guy outside was drunk off his ass, and I think was about 3 steps away from getting behind the wheel when the cops showed up. So good on timing for that one. But yeah, there's not much more to tell. They got in contact with this guy who was outside, asking him a lot of questions about what was going on upstairs. There was a girlfriend involved or something. And anyway, seemingly it all resolved itself peacefully. I did hear the guy told by the cops that he was almost arrested tonight. So I don't know what that means. I don't know the context elsewise. The cops never came to talk to me specifically, so I don't know. But either way, fingers crossed, hopefully something more terrible was avoided in the process, or nobody's, seriously hurt, whatever was going on. But as a consequence of all that, I'm awake. Got the adrenaline pumping there a little bit because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And besides which, my kingdom for a good night's sleep, because these last couple of weeks, man, I tell you what. Anyway, who's here? Oh my gosh, Mike Savage, Blarg, Evil One, you rebel, yes. Twisted Skipster, good morning. JMK, good morning. Ostzan, Scribbles, you bastard. Why don't you tell us? I know. I didn't let you know my schedule for, spontaneous contacts with law enforcement. Sorry. Shio Gorath. Hey, Shio Gorath. Long time no see. Hope you're doing good. Let's see. Yeah, so good morning to you. Good morning to everybody. Assassin of the Gray. Good morning. I wasn't causing nothing. I was having to respond. I hesitated. I was like, do I really want to? Is anything going on? But I was like, yelling, large thump, then silence. Like, I've seen some true crime. I've heard a few stories. So I thought, yeah, just better safe than sorry. But anyway, like I said in the tweet about this, in the absence of having anything or being able to do much else, why not stream, go over what's going on in the world? So there's the story, such as it is. If it was any more exciting, I'd tell you, but that's about it. Hopefully, like I say, whatever the problem was, it has been at least staved off or, delayed or ended. Who knows? Anyway, what's going on in the world? Well, guess what? Michael Keaton's back as Batman. Of course, we already kind of knew that, because that was supposed to happen with the Batgirl movie that got completely spiked before it even got released, because apparently it was so bad they couldn't even release it to the theaters or even have any more test screenings with it. And it's the Flash movie that has gone through multiple rounds of reshoots. The amount of money spent on this film at this point, I wonder if the article will say, has to be in the mid-hundred millions of dollars. Right? I mean, what is the reported budget on the Flash movie? I think it's, let's see, the Flash budget. I think it's like 250 million. Okay, the reported budget is $200 million. Okay. Reported budget. But they've gone through delays and delays and delays and reshoots and reshoots and reshoots and changes, this, that, and the other. I'm thinking that the production budget on this has to be, I'll be conservative and say $300 million at this point, and then you have to add on marketing, which almost always either adds half to double of the production budget. So let's just say I'll be conservative again. Let's just say that this thing has to make at least $500 million to break even. That's my guess. Once you talk about all the costs involved and all the reshoots and everything else, extra expense, delaying the film, paying off the theaters, et cetera, et cetera. I'm guessing this sucker has to make at least $500 million just to break even, or just to get slightly over breaking even to make a profit. And what do we get today? Well, we got the first real face reveal of Michael Keaton back as Batman, doing one of the most cringy callback memberberry lines ever. When I heard, I was like, oh, dude, no, it doesn't make sense out of context like that. That's not Batman's like signature phrase or something. It wasn't even the signature phrase from the original series of movies. He said it once in the first movie, and that's about it. But anyway, the Flash final trailer shows Michael Keaton's iconic Batman going nuts. Yeah, I mean, in context to what the Batman was doing in the first two films as Michael Keaton, going up against aliens and flying people and everything is a bit outside his wheelhouse. But, it is what it is. Who else is here? Oh, Froggy. Good morning, Froggy. Hope you're doing good. Let's see. Evil One says, remember when the media was complaining about Waterworld being $100 million to make and it was a crime? Yeah, no, unfortunately, I do remember that because I was around for that. I remember the most expensive movie ever made. They had to move the set around 360 degrees to get away from plains and beaches and stuff, and that cost $10,000 a foot or some crazy thing. Yeah, man. Waterworld, a movie that if they just waited a few years to make it, they could have used like CGI to paint out the beach and the plains and all that stuff and save themselves some money. Anyway, in superhero lore, few things are as thrilling as seeing an old favorite don the suit of a beloved character once more. Okay. And in the new and final trailer for The Flash, viewers are getting even more of Michael Keaton as Batman, a role he last played 31 years ago in 1992's Tim Burton classic Batman Returns. Yes, whereas the first Batman movie came out in 1989. And I remember that for some reason because of an article in a Nintendo Power magazine which talked about the Batman game, which was coming out in 1989. The Batman NES game, which is still one of the best NES games I think ever produced, which is, saying something. The promotional clip for the new DC Warner Brothers film, which premiered Tuesday at CinemaCon in Las Vegas, opened with Keaton's Bruce Wayne telling Ezra Miller's Barry Allen that the pain of losing his parents, quote, made me who I am, unquote. DC, Warner Brothers, and CNN are all part of the same parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery. Oh, yes, I know. Yeah, you guys are still cleaning house. Don Lemon's out. Stelter's out. CNN Plus got shut down. Yeah. Quote, I spent a lifetime trying to right the wrongs of the past, as if fighting crime would bring my parents back. Keaton's Wayne says in the trailer, as beguiling glimpses of his Batcave are shown. Boy, is that dumbing down. Thanks for the nuance, writers of the movie. Ay, caramba. Quote, you actually did it, he then tells Alan, alluding to the story of the new film in which Miller's titular superhero, the Flash, travels back in time to save his own parents, but ultimately broke the universe. The trailer shows more interactions with DC newcomer Sasha Calais, I think that's how you say it, who plays Supergirl, as well as returning villain General Zod, portrayed by Michael Shannon. Shannon last played the extraterrestrial bad guy in 2016's Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. One of the more galvanizing interludes of the trailer displays Keaton, dressed neck down in his iconic batsuit, complete with the iconic black and yellow Batman logo, uttering dialogue last spoken in 1989's seminal Batman film when he matched wits with Jack Nicholson's evil and zany Joker. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. The Flash premieres in theaters on June 16th. Yeah. Cheap callback. Cheap and completely out of context and awkward callback is what that looked like to me. The rest of the movie looks like a CGI smorgasbord. There's a rumor, as there are always rumors, that there will be a cameo by the Nicolas Cage version of Superman, which never got made. Because Tim Burton wanted to do Superman, and there was testing done to make Nicolas Cage Superman, but it ultimately never happened. Sure, why not? I put onto Twitter that they should also have a cameo by Adrienne Palicki, because for a very brief moment, she was Wonder Woman in a failed Wonder Woman television show pilot by David E. Kelly, of all people, the guy from Picket Fences and The Practice, amongst other projects. I think he's still married to Michelle Pfeiffer, or did they get split up? I can't remember. Either way, at one point and for quite a while, he was married to Michelle Pfeiffer, who also has a connection to the Batman series. And I wouldn't be surprised if she makes a cameo in this too, because, Selena Kyle didn't technically die at the end of Batman Returns. So who knows? Let's see. Ebony Williams, good morning. Sounds like you have sucky neighbors. Well, I mean, they've been pretty sucky to me, at least peripherally, and certainly tonight, somebody was really sucky to somebody else. Because what I was able to glean from, again, it was almost impossible not to hear the conversations going on outside between the cops and the people they were talking to. But yeah, something wasn't going on too right there, and somebody came pretty close to getting arrested, sounds like. So, like I say, I hope I helped head something off at the pass there. Kyle Mack, I'm a hardcore Batman fan, and everything tells me this movie is going to make me very angry. I think it's, I don't know. The trailer and the overall gist of it, it makes me think it's going to be okay. That's as much as I can guess from what little I've heard and now what little I've seen. It's going to be okay. It's going to be a mess because they've had to go back and reshoot things and re-edit things and change things around, because literally with the changing of the guard owning Warner and DC and everything, and the complete lackadaisical, there's a good word, lackadaisical nature of how they've handled the DC universe, where now the whole Shazam Black Adam thing is now defunct. Aquaman's probably defunct. Cavill's out. They're rebooting everything with James Gunn. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Justice League. Remember when Joss Whedon came in to fix Justice League after Zack Snyder had to leave the production, and you get kind of a mishmash of things. I think this is going to be a mishmash of things. There's going to be plenty of fan service or cheap callbacks, certainly. And they can put all types of Easter eggs in there because, you know, when you're dealing with the multiverse, you know, it seems like this is going to be the multiverse movie that Marvel fans actually wanted out of Multiverse of Madness. Like, there were so many rumors about the kind of cameos or Easter eggs or interesting things they were going to do with Multiverse of Madness. And all they ended up getting was like, yeah, they brought Patrick Stewart back as Professor X, and they brought in Black Bolt. You know, they had like one sequence, one scene where the whole multiverse thing actually came to fruition in some way. But there were so many of us that were thinking like, oh, are they going to have like a cameo by Ash from The Evil Dead? Are they going to... I always thought, what I thought would have been really neat is at one time, what's his name? The guy, oh, for God's sakes. I mean, he played Mr. Fantastic, and all of a sudden I can't remember his name. I know somebody in the chat will say it before I do. John Krasinski. At one point, John Krasinski went out for the role of Captain America, like before they cast Captain America. And interestingly enough, Emily Blunt, his wife, if I'm not mistaken, she went out for the role of Black Widow at one point. I honestly thought that they were going to have a fun cameo of a John Krasinski Captain America and an Emily Blunt Black Widow appearing in Multiverse of Madness. I thought that would have been perfect, given, you know, casting things, all that kind of stuff. They could have done all that. None of that happened. None of that happened. And what they did do in Multiverse of Madness was just so silly. So silly. But at least in this movie, it looks like they're going to take the opportunity to try to, you know, actually merge universes together and bring in other actors from different franchises and things and that kind of stuff. And so for that, you know, credit where credit's due. But as a movie overall, my instincts tell me it's going to be okay. It's probably going to make a chunk of money in its first couple of weekends, just on, you know, anticipation alone and morbid curiosity about Ezra Miller and God knows what else. And Michael Keaton being Batman again, I mean, that is kind of cool. I'm not going to deny it. It would have felt better if, like, it hadn't taken forever and it didn't feel like it was completely tacked on, and it's not going to go anywhere. Because if they did Batman Beyond, okay, and if they had Michael Keaton playing Bruce Wayne, you know, quasi Alfred for the Batman of Batman Beyond, that was always an idea that kind of had some attractiveness to it, because Batman Beyond, very good story, very good show overall, and I kind of liked it. But I don't know if that's in the cards anymore. Who knows what James Gunn has planned? There's no, as far as I know, there's no Batman Beyond movie in the offering. So anyway, there's the Batman. Oh, sorry, the Flash movie, the Batman. Yeah, I mean, it might as well be. They're trying. I mean, when you know you can't attract an audience with Ezra Miller's Flash, and you put the Batman in. And the other thing too is that supposedly Michael Keaton has said something to the effect that he's only in the movie for like 5 minutes. The amount of footage they actually took of him. And I can imagine that's probably accurate, because probably most of the time it's a CGI Batman in a plane, or, you know, jump kicking people or whatever. But yeah, he's only in the movie for a very limited amount of time. But you also saw Ben Affleck in the trailer. And so, yeah, they're merging all these things together, or trying to. But you saw more, I think you saw more Batman teasers in that trailer than you did for Flash. And I can't say anything about Supergirl. I don't know. The Supergirl, she's blonde. At least, why can't you at least do that? She's blonde. She's always been blonde. What? Really? Okay. Anyway, let's look at another story. What's another story going on right now? I mean, there are some stories I wanted to go over for like Sunday stream. Like there's some new Kamala Harris stuff. Biden Joe Biden just announced today officially that he's running for president, which has been long delayed but much expected. And as I've said in previous streams and everything else, my first concern and the thing that I think most voters and the media should be doing is treating Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate right alongside Joe Biden, as far as scrutiny, as far as reporting, as far as questions. I think it is incumbent upon any responsible adult looking at the situation to do so. You know, it just, when you put up a 80-plus-year-old man who already shows signs, being generous here, of cognitive decline, the idea that you shouldn't be very wary of who the vice president is in that situation. Yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see how the media treats Kamala Harris going forward. I intend to go over some articles on Sunday for that. I'm not going to do it tonight. Keeverdam, thank you so much. Stream has been shared. Thank you, Keeverdam. Appreciate it. And thank you so much. I'm sorry that you're awake at the same hour as I am right now. Anybody is. The fact that any of you guys are. Holy cats. I hope I'm keeping somebody company when they otherwise wouldn't have anybody talking. At least, if I can serve no other purpose. Let's see. What else is going on in the world here as I look at the front page? Anything? I'll just read some headlines, see if anything jumps out at me. Messy eating habits might reveal elusive black hole. What? Okay, title's got me. And it's space related. Okay, I thought it was some kind of like euphemism for a dieting plan or something, but I guess that's not the case. All right, well, let's find out what's going on with the black hole. Black holes have a reputation for snacking on stars, but some of these celestial garbage disposals, I think that's selling black holes a little short for their, sort of cosmic enormity and the power of them, but okay. I don't know, was that their purpose? Is that what black holes are? They're meant to be the universe's garbage disposals. Maybe messier than others, according to new research. Astrophysicists used 3D computer models, to show that intermediate mass black holes take a few bites out of wayward stars before tossing away the stellar crumbs and leaving a cosmic trail. Oh, almost like they're spun out. Okay. Researchers made the discovery while running simulations on black holes of various masses and sending sun-sized stars past them. Okay. The clues uncovered in the experiment might help astronomers find intermediate mass black holes by searching for evidence of their behaviors. During the simulations, the intermediate mass black hole snagged the star in its orbit, and each time the star made another lap, the black hole took another bite out of it. You don't say. I mean, it just seems reasonable to me. I guess if you need a simulation. When only the dense, misshapen core of the star was left, the black hole discarded it and sent it flying across the galaxy. At the speeds it'd be going and its loss of mass and the velocity, I could see that almost like water spinning quickly down a drain and little bits being thrown off on the edges. Because, kind of functions similarly. A study describing the modeling analysis has been accepted for publication in the Astrophysical Journal, and the findings will be presented Tuesday at the American Physical Society's April meeting. The American Physical Society, I want to get physical. Quote, we obviously cannot observe black holes directly because they don't emit light, said lead study author Fulya Kiroglu, something, a doctoral student of astrophysics at Northwestern University's Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences in Evanston, Illinois, in a statement. She is also a member of the university's Center for Interdisciplinary Exploration and Research in Astrophysics. Quote, so instead we have to look at the interactions between black holes and their environments. We found that stars undergo multiple passages before being ejected. After each passage, they lose more mass, causing a flare of light as it's ripped apart. Each flare is brighter than the last, creating a signature that might help astronomers find them. All right, well, anything after that is going to be, I think, repetitive or, informational in just some kind of unnecessary way. But there you go. Black hole, sun, won't you come? Let's see. Darren Root, dark hole sun. Not quite. Black hole sun. Soundgarden, 1990. I want to say 4 94, 94, 95, something like that. I could be mistaken, but it's been a while. Let's see. What else is going on in the world? Or the universe, as the case may be. Oh, here we go. Speaking of sleeping, or not being able to sleep, as the case may be. How about this? Oh boy, potentially dangerous doses of melatonin and CBD found in gummies sold for sleep. Dangerous doses of melatonin. I didn't know you could have such a thing, but this is me not being a pharmacist. So what do I know? Apparently not much. But let's take a look. Testing of over 24 melatonin gummies sold as sleep aids found some had potentially dangerous amounts of the hormone that help regulate sleep, according to a new study. What does melatonin overdose do, I wonder? Quote, one product contained 347% more melatonin than what was actual listed? Actual listed. Okay, actual listed on the label of the gummies, said study co-author Dr. Peter Cohen, an associate professor of medicine at the Cambridge Health Alliance in Somerville, Massachusetts. A jar of gummies might also contain ingredients you didn't count on, Cohen said. Quote, one of the products that listed melatonin contained no melatonin at all. It was just cannabidiol, or CBD. Oh, well, that's not good. Are you going to tell us what the companies are so we can avoid these things? According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, quote, it is currently illegal to market CBD by adding it to a food or labeling it as a dietary supplement, unquote. Yet several of the tested products containing CBD in the study openly advertised the addition of that compound to their melatonin product, Cohen said. Quote, 4 of the tested products contained levels of CBD that were between 4% and 18% higher than on the label. The use of CBD in over-the-counter aids is particularly concerning because parents might purchase gummy products to give to their children to help them sleep, said Dr. Cora Colette Bruner, a professor of pediatrics at Seattle's Children's Hospital at the University of Washington. Quote, there is no data that supports the use of CBD in children, said Bruner, who was not involved in the study. I mean, if you want to get your kid, no, I'm just kidding. Quote, it's currently only recommended for a very specific use in children over 1 with intractable seizure disorders. Okay. Aside from CBD, consuming a gummy that unknowingly contains high levels of melatonin, well over the daily 0.5 to 1 milligram per night that has been shown to induce sleep in kids, is also dangerous, said Bruner. Tell me how. What does a melatonin overdose look like? Side effects of melatonin use in children. Well, okay, in children. Okay, can include drowsiness. Okay, headaches. Okay, agitation and increased bedwetting or urination in the evening. Well, you don't want that. There is also the potential for harmful interactions with medications and allergic reactions to the melatonin, according to the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, a department of the National Institutes of Health. The agency also warned supplements could affect hormonal development, including puberty, menstrual cycles, and overproduction of the hormone prolactin, which causes breast and milk development in women. Could affect hormonal. I'm not going to go all Alex Jones here, but hey. Are you going to tell us the names of the products? I mean, if this is a health warning, are you going to call some names out here? In the study published Tuesday in the journal JAMA. Oh, JAMA. I stream on JAMA one time where they had a podcast where somebody from JAMA was interviewing somebody about, what was it? Environmental racism or something. I forget what it was, but the conclusions or the comments made in that podcast were apparently so terrible that they took the podcast down. I am one of the few people who actually obtained a copy of the thing before it was removed from the internet. I was actually, and I did a live stream using it. I still have it somewhere in a folder. I did a live stream using it. I did something stupid, which I've never done again. I did the whole stream doing an imitation of a podcast type NPR announcer guy. I really regret having done that because it was really terrible. But funny story, I was contacted by a journalist who came across my live stream, which I was surprised by. And the guy was wondering where I got the copy of the original podcast because it was off the internet. It was disappeared by JAMA over the controversy. And fortunately for him, I still had a complete and unedited copy of it. And I just kind of said, here, I just emailed it to him. He was going to use it in a story. Well, this story eventually came out. Did he credit me with having provided him the copy of the... Nope. No. I didn't say I wanted anonymity or something, but whatever. You know, there you go. Anyway, that was a year or two ago now. Still sore. I'm still bitter. I'm bitter. Anyway, and let's go back here. In the study published Tuesday in the journal JAMA, researchers sent 25 products labeled as melatonin gummies to the outside lab that tested for levels of melatonin and other substances. However, the research team didn't pick products willy-nilly off the internet, Cohen said. The scientists carefully chose the first 25 gummy melatonin products displayed in the National Institutes of Health database, which the public can check to see labels of dietary supplements sold in the United States. Names? Anything? Names? Nothing? Okay, so you're not going to tell us what products might be containing dangerous levels of melatonin or other things for children. Okay, well, thanks so much, CNN, and thanks so much, JAMA, or whoever's reporting on this. It's wonderful. That's just wonderful. Let's see. Punished scribbles, a streamer denied his credit. Just a mention, just a thanks at the end for, assisting on the creation of the story or something, But I mean, it wasn't like some giant publication, and the guy wasn't some like mainstream journalist or something. As far as I could tell, he worked for like some minor, little news blog kind of thing. But whatever is what it is. Okay, well, so there's stuff out there that might be harmful to children. Not going to tell us what it is. All right, that's fine. That's okay. We'll survive. It's okay. Now, let's see. I think CNN has run its course for me. Let's check out... let's check out ABC. Or ABC is not even ABC News anymore, is it? It's like ABC Go or something. Is it ABC News? It is. I hope it is. There we go. Oh yeah. I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do it. Oh wait, killer clown case. What? Okay, sure. Why not? It's a story out of Florida. So sure. Let's take a look. I guess. No, I don't want any video audio playing. If it starts playing audio, I'll cut it out. No, stop it. Okay, this might be one for some of my true crime friends to take a look at because I don't think I heard about this one. Sheila Keene Warren pleads guilty to shooting husband's first wife in 1990 killer clown case. Whoa, this sounds like some Stephanie Lazarus territory here, if you guys know who Stephanie Lazarus was. Okay, a woman has admitted to dressing up as a clown and fatally shooting her husband's first wife at the victim's Florida home more than 30 years ago, though her attorney still maintains her innocence. Sheila Keene Warren, go away, 59, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in a Palm Beach County court on Tuesday as part of a plea deal reached weeks before her trial was set to begin. She was arrested in 2017 for the murder of Marlene Warren, who was shot in the face after opening the front door of her home in Wellington in 1990 and died 2 days later. Keene Warren withdrew her plea of not guilty and changed her plea to guilty during Tuesday's court appearance. The plea deal calls for a 12-year sentence. 12 years? Shooting a lady in the face? Are you kidding me? Though Keene Warren's attorney, Greg Rosefeld, told reporters outside the courtroom that he expects her to be home in 10 months. 10 months? If convicted, she faced a life sentence. Keene Warren, who has been in jail since her arrest, will receive 2,039 days of credit towards her sentence, Judge Scott Suskauer said while accepting the deal. Okay, well, 2,039 days. Okay, fair enough. I mean, 2,039 days out of the rest of her life, it should be, but 12 years, 10 months. What? Rosenfeld called the plea a big win for our client. Well, if she gets anything less than life for that, then yeah, because can you say premeditated murder? Good gravy. While continuing to deny her guilt in the shocking crime. If she's pleading guilty, I mean, it's not an Alford plea, right? If she's pleading guilty, you can't deny her guilt. Sorry. Quote, it was an incredibly hard decision for our client saying you did something that you didn't do. I mean, nothing's harder than that. Our client wanted to go home, he added. Well, you're picking a really lousy way to do it then by admitting to murder, but whatever. During the hearing, prosecutors outlined evidence they would have brought forward during the trial that they say implicated Keen Warren in the fatal shooting on May 26, 1990, including testimony from witnesses from a local costume shop that placed her buying a clown costume and wig approximately 2 days before the incident. Palm Beach County Assistant State Attorney Reed Scott said the witnesses inside the home at the time of the shooting saw, quote, a clown come to the front door, hand Miss Warren balloons and flowers before shooting her in the face, then drive away in a white Chrysler LeBaron. A white Chrysler LeBaron was found approximately 4 days later in a Winn-Dixie parking lot that had, quote, trace evidence, including long brown human hairs and what law enforcement officers, quote, described as artificial orange-like fibers, Scott said. A search of Keen Warren's home at the time turned up similar fibers, he said. At the time of the murder, Keen Warren was a repossession agent who would repossess cars from the victim's husband, who operated a used car and rental business, prosecutors said. Keen Warren and the victim's husband, Michael Warren, would go on to own a restaurant in Tennessee and marry in 2002. The two lived in Abingdon, Virginia, until Keen Warren's arrest in 2017. The facts of the case, quote, would lead a jury to find her guilty of the crime, Reed said. Then why accept a plea deal? Why accept a plea deal? When asked by the judge if they were aware of any physical evidence that may exonerate the defendant, Keen Warren and her attorney both responded no. Warren's son, Joseph Aherns, was at home at the time of the shooting, authorities said. He told Judge Suskauer he agreed with the terms of the plea deal. Really? Quote, the only thing I want to say is, all through this trial, I didn't see any remorse, Aherns told the court while appearing remotely. God be with her, he added. Well, he's more forgiving than I would be. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit reopened the homicide investigation in 2014. After contacting witnesses and conducting additional DNA analysis, authorities said they established probable cause linking Keen Warren to the murder. A grand jury subsequently issued a true bill for first-degree murder a month before her arrest in September 2017. 12 years to 10 months, according to... Come on. Come on. She outright murders somebody in order to take her boyfriend away from her and then marries and raises a family with... This lady doesn't deserve anything less than life in prison. 12 years? I hope the judge has some leeway in this and smacks on an extra 8 years or something. That's nuts. That's silly. Thank you, Dax O'Ryan. You could say something funny was going on. Yeah. Something a little clown... I don't know. I can't think right now. But hey, you know. It's like, surprise! No. 12 years, 10 months. Come on. Come on. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Let's see. Well, we did ABC. Let's do NBC News. What's going on at NBC News? What's their top stories? Oh, here we go. How about some Supreme Court action? You guys like some Supreme Court action? I like some Supreme Court action. Supreme Court action here. Let's see. Oh, and now I'm hearing thumping and bumbling upstairs. Now I got to be very wary, you know. Does individual cops interacted with come back at some point? You know, oh boy. I hope it's just somebody going to bed and they're safe in their situation. Oh boy. Chief Justice Roberts declines to testify at Senate Supreme Court ethics hearing. Okay, ethics about what? This is about the Clarence Thomas thing. The invitation from Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin was extended after Justice Clarence Thomas came under scrutiny for accepting undisclosed gifts. Yeah, I saw something about this last week or the week before. I couldn't tell at the time whether it was something serious or something nitpicky. Chief Justice John Roberts on Tuesday declined an invitation from a high-ranking Democratic senator to testify at a congressional hearing on ethics rules for members of the Supreme Court. So it was an invitation, not a subpoena, then I'm assuming. Okay. In a letter to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, Roberts suggested that his participation could pose a threat to judicial independence. Quote, testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee by the Chief Justice of the United States is exceedingly rare, as one might expect in light of separation of powers concerns and the importance of preserving judicial independence, Roberts wrote. Roberts included in his letter a statement of ethics principles and practices, quote, to which all the current members of the Supreme Court subscribe, unquote. Durbin had requested Roberts' participation, or the participation of a justice of his choosing, at a public hearing, quote, regarding the ethical rules that govern the justices of the Supreme Court and potential reforms to those rules scheduled for May 2nd. In his invitation, Durbin cited ample precedent for sitting justices' testimony, citing testimony in October 2011 from Justices Stephen Breyer and Antonin Scalia, which he said included, quote, robust exchanges about the court's approach to ethics matters, unquote. Okay. Speaking of precedents, what was Roe v. Wade? and how much is a precedent a law? Is a precedent a rule? Is a precedent a requirement? No. Anyway, a ProPublica report this month described how GOP megadonor and billionaire Harlan Crow. That sounds like a comic book character, like, name, some sort of kingpin kind of thing. Provided trips and gifts to Justice Clarence Thomas that Thomas did not disclose. After Roberts declined to testify, Durbin referred to Thomas while saying lawmakers should set, quote, an enforceable code of ethics, unquote, for the Supreme Court. Quote, I am surprised the Chief Justice's recounting of existing legal standards of ethics suggests current law is adequate and ignores the obvious. The actions of one justice, including trips on yachts and private jets, were not reported to the public. That same justice failed to disclose the sale of properties he partly owned to a party with interests before the Supreme Court, Durbin said. Well, what was that? I must have missed this one. Where is the conflict of interest? To what case was there a conflict of interest? It is time for Congress to accept its responsibility to establish an enforceable code of ethics for the Supreme Court, the only agency of our government without it, he added. Separation of powers. Good luck, I guess. In addition to seeking his testimony, Democrats on the Judiciary Committee have called on Roberts to investigate Thomas's undisclosed gifts. Okay, Thomas referred to Crow and his wife, Kathy, as dearest friends in a statement this month, and said that early in his Supreme Court tenure, he had been advised that, quote, personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court was not reportable. Quote, I have endeavored to follow that counsel throughout my tenure and have always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines, unquote, Thomas said in the statement. On Monday, Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, launched a separate inquiry by asking Crow to provide a complete account of any trips, gifts, and payments he had made to Thomas over the years. Allegations against Thomas were referred last week to the Judicial Conference of the United States, a committee that reviews financial disclosures in response to concerns raised by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat of Rhode Island, and Representative Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia. What was the conflict of interest? I don't know. I'm not being facetious. I honestly don't know. What case involving Harlan Crow was before the Ethics Committee or before the Supreme Court? Sorry. Anything? Not going to tell us? At least not in this article? Okay. Well, there you go, I guess. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. Let's see. Evil One, the gifts, he was friends with the guy forever and they took vacations together. Well, that can be fine and good, but there's a claim there that there was some kind of conflict of interest of a case before the court or some involvement of sale of property or something. So what was that case? Why can't they cite that? Or why won't they cite that, I guess, is the other thing. Keldrick, good evening. Good evening, Keldrick. Hope you're doing good. Let's see. Plague Dr. Zach, I'm not a fan of this trend of wielding congressional power like a cudgel in order to get another member of government out so you can put your own guy there. Well, welcome to the wonderful world of politics. Now, if something untoward did happen, right, if he took money and or gifts from someone who had a case or was involved in a case before the Supreme Court, that, if you apply that same standard to any other regular judge, it still would be a problem and they would have to recuse themselves just to avoid any claims of conflict of interest. But in this instance, at least that article didn't tell me what the potential conflict of interest was. So unless or until I know that personally, I can't say one way or the other. But if you can believe it, even Supreme Court justices have lives outside of the court. And sometimes that means, hanging out with people and doing things and going places and even accepting gifts. When you operate at that level, I don't know. Let's see. What else is going on today? I don't know how long I'll go, guys. I'm awake for the sake of being awake, so I'll probably just go maybe for an hour-ish. Is Monkey still streaming right now? I think I saw that he had started streaming not too long ago. Am I running up against Monkey? I don't know. I don't usually like to step on the toes of my fellow YouTubers if I can help it, but oh, sure. Let's go to NPR. How about NPR? Cover a story from NPR. Why not? We'll run the gamut tonight because I got nothing else to do. Texas Agriculture Department's new dress code is based on biological gender. So can women not wear pants? I mean, I don't know. The Texas Department of Agriculture is ordering its employees to comply with a new dress code, mandating they abide by it in a, quote, manner consistent with their biological gender. Okay, there's a point at which micromanaging things goes maybe a bit too far, but let's see what they have to say. An ACLU attorney says it violates federal law that bans employment discrimination based on one's sexual orientation or gender identity. Really? Really, you want to tell me about federal laws that ban discrimination on the basis of one's sexual orientation or gender identity? Have you listened to any DEI advocates in the last 7 years at least? You might want to. There's some companies I could name you might want to go look at as far as like discrimination in employment on the basis of orientation and so on. But whatever. In a copy of the April 13th memo first obtained by the Texas Observer, the new dress code handed down by Sid Miller, the state's agricultural commissioner, is required by all employees as part of a dress code and grooming policy. Oh, quote, employees are expected to comply with this dress code in a manner consistent with their biological gender. In what way? The new dress code restrictions for employees will replace the previous one outlined by the state agency's employee handbook, the Observer reported. The original dress code made no references to biological gender. What is that supposed to mean? The new dress code, yes. This is the second paragraph in which you started the new dress code. Okay. The new dress code policy will apply to all employees of the department. No kidding. If it's the dress code, why? Thanks, NPR. Including interns and contractors, according to the policy. Those who violate the mandated dress code. What is the dress code? May face severe consequences, such as, and may be asked to leave the premises to change clothes that comply with the policy. Okay. What severe consequences and what is the policy? If problems with an employee's dress continue, employees can face, quote, remedies up to and including termination. It's unclear whether the decision to change the dress code began with Miller's office or as a result of a mandate higher up within the state's government. The Texas Department of Agriculture did not immediately respond to NPR's request for comment about the new dress code. What is the dress code? Brian Klosterboer. That is an amazing last name. Klosterboer, an attorney with the ACLU of Texas, told the Texas Tribune that the new dress code, whatever it is, violates Title VII of the Federal Civil Rights Act. What Title VII? What is Title VII? What does Title VII say? What is Title VII all about? Have I ever brought up Title VII in the course of my channel's lifetime? Which bans employment discrimination based on one's sexual orientation or gender identity. Actually, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's been extrapolated to include those things. but it doesn't actually by word do that. At least the original text of Title VII doesn't actually do that. In addition to the First Amendment's right to free expression. Title VII refers to one's sex. Doesn't say gender identities, doesn't say sexual orientation, but sex as a word has been, again, expanded to include anything dealing with gender one way or the other, or orientation now. Now, that's not to say that I disagree with that notion, but, when the article says that it bans employment discrimination, Title VII doesn't actually do that by letter of the law, but whatever. Unless, of course, there's been some amendment to it that I'm just completely unaware of, which would explain that. But anyway, quote, state agencies should be focused on doing their jobs and not discriminating against their own employees and trying to make political statements through their agency regulations, Klosterboer told the Tribune. Yeah, it seems unnecessary to me, at least at this point. Of course, I don't know what the policy is yet because they haven't told us. So there is no important governmental interest that this can meet, he added. The new dress code comes on in the wake of several anti-LGBTQ bills, you forgot the plus, and laws that have been introduced in the state over the last few years. Last year, Texas Governor Greg Abbott directed the state's Department of Family and Protective Services to investigate certain gender-affirming care for transgender children as possible child abuse. Okay, it's not a separate species or something. Transgender children. They are children. Just take that first part out. They are children. Gender-affirming care. As possible child abuse? If you're not old enough to get a tattoo, if you're not old enough to make your own decisions or sign contracts or drink or whatever, then you're not old enough to give affirming consent to massive gender surgery or chemical. No, just stop. Anyway, in 2021, Abbott signed into law House Bill 25, which requires all public school students to compete in interscholastic athletic competitions based solely on their assigned sex based solely on their what? Their what? Oh, gosh. I remember the first time I heard that. That was back in 2015, 2016. First time I ever heard somebody utter those words. And I was like, what are you talking about? The law, which went into effect in January 2022, made Texas the 10th state to enact similar legislation. Yeah, almost because it makes complete sense, doesn't it? I mean, if you want to have a intergender football league where nearly all the female participants are going to get severely injured going up against their male counterparts, go ahead. See how long that lasts. Last year, nearly 300 anti-LGBTQ bills. Is that how you're classifying them? Right? Trying to make sure that children aren't put through either mind-bending, body-bending, or otherwise, irreparable procedures because some adult in their life is telling them or pushing them towards doing something that is very difficult to reverse, or when it does, could cause lifelong damage. That's anti-LGBT, as though it were some kind of different species of human or something. Were filed during the state legislative sessions. However, only 29 of those bills are signed into law. Okay. Well, I would love to know, what is the dress code? I mean, you can't. I mean, if the dress code didn't change at all, but just added this new language, consistent with their biological gender, could you at least give us a quotation of the published dress code? Is that so difficult? Why was that a mystery? Why was that so? Oy. I don't get it. Let's see. What's this? Oh, people are talking about their neighbor experiences too in the chat. I see. So what is the QRD on Scribe calling the cops? Well, if I knew what QRD meant. Oh, is it the quick rundown? Is that what that means? I'm just using context clues. Am I right on that? I haven't heard that one before. The quick rundown. Just before midnight, sort of muffled yelling and screaming, large crashing noise, then followed by a smaller crashing noise of something being thrown, and then complete or relatively complete silence. My never having heard anything like that from upstairs before, and it being completely out of character from the usual noises that were, sometimes annoying depending on the time of night, but were always very normal sounds of people like, living in an apartment. So in an overabundance of caution, called the cops. Something about someone was drunk and there might have been some kind of physical scuffle. Outside of that, I don't know. But everything's quiet now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing too untoward took place. Thank you, Gunfox61. Scribe, the left is coming for the kids. I say give them to the sun-eating catapult. I've done several videos on this in the past, a couple of TEDx's in particular. It's a really touchy subject. It really is. But, I guess one of the things that there's a couple of stories that come to mind that are similar to these kind of deals that I've heard about in the past. The first one, more generalized story, there was a documentary by Frontline, PBS Frontline, many years ago now, but I think still is fairly relevant. It was called The Medicated Child, and it covered a plethora of things, but one of the things that it covered was overreactive parents thinking that the behavior of their children, young children, was indicative of something needing to be medicated, right? That they decided, and the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors involved were pushing that their kids be medicated in order to resolve these obvious problems or signs of mental distress or something else, when it's entirely possible and probably more than likely that they were just kids, small human beings with overactive metabolisms and not quite figured out how to act as a rational adult yet because they're kids, and yet they're being fed medication that could have long-term side effects on their brains, on their development, and so on. And you can say, parents just, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They didn't mean to do anything wrong, and I can believe that. But also, there's other forces at work encouraging these parents to medicate their children, perhaps when it's not necessary and could, in fact, be damaging. The other story that comes to mind is one actually that I first heard about on NPR, and I think you can probably still find it. It was a podcast / documentary. I believe it was called My Lobotomy. And it was the story of a man who, as a child, from at least from his telling of it, on the basis of the whims of a evil stepmother, for lack of a better phrase, was put through a transorbital lobotomy. It's the ice pick lobotomy. Now, unlike most people who go through that procedure, the subject of this documentary didn't become a vegetable. Although what damage was done to him and his personality as a result of this is, it's difficult to say. But, he went through the procedure. Who knows how it changed him, but it was all done because the stepmother decided that the child was too active or rambunctious or something when he's like a kid, So, depending on the motivations of the adult involved, it could be something that is well-meaning but ill-informed, or it could be something overtly malicious. Or in the case of what we see so often now, it could be something fueled entirely by fad ideology. But whatever the fueling is of the adults involved, it's the adults involved who are responsible for the welfare of the children, ultimately. And so when you start doing things to their development or doing things to their body or pushing them through medications or surgeries and stuff that, do nothing to help their overall bodily health, but just for either aesthetics or because of your belief or a brief period of time where a child behaves in a way that you've decided justifies this, I got to tell you, it really is. It doesn't feel any less creepy than the lobotomy story. It doesn't feel any less creepy than the let's give the child psychological medications because they're being overactive and rambunctious. Just that same category of concern when I hear things like that. You know, you have to be very careful with that kind of thing. And I don't know how careful people are being with this stuff. But anyway, was there anything else I wanted to talk about while I'm here? I don't know if I have any more news stories I really want to go after. Oh, man. Or Faithless or Munchausen. Yeah, Munchausen by proxy. Yeah, some adult looking to get attention and using their kid as the vehicle by which to get attention and or other benefits. You know, plenty of stories like that. There was the lady that kept feeding her kid salt until he died, you know, and those ones are always like the sickest. Especially when they find them out after the fact, you know, or is that, what was that one lady? I've seen a couple of true crime videos on it because she was interrogated. Her name was like Rosie or something. And her mother made her out to be, you know, afflicted with everything under the sun. And for years she was, you know, made to sit in a wheelchair and everything else. And eventually the girl and her internet boyfriend conspired to kill the mother. It was Rosie or something like that. I forget. Somebody in the chat will probably remind me because it's my brain is a little bit sideways right now. Yeah, those stories, they freak me out. Very disturbing stuff. Let's see if I can think of anything else that's really exciting to talk about right now. I don't think there is. I'm sure I had something more profound to say. That's the other story. That's the other story I want to look at. Sorry, real quick here. Let me find that. There was one more story I figured I'd cover now. If I'm not going to do extra moon-based stuff on Sunday, if I'm still planning to do Kamala Harris stuff, then let's take a look at this one. Let me... audio didn't just freak out there. Because anytime I open another browser while I'm doing this, my audio goes absolutely bug nuts. Or especially Firefox for some reason. Moon-based news. Or not moon-based news, unfortunately. Commercial lunar lander presumed lost after historic moon landing attempt. I'm actually, I don't recall if in the course of doing the moon-based news last week, if there was a Japanese mission mentioned in that stuff. We talked about the Chinese intentions to make a moon base out of moon bricks at some point. But let's see. Scribely got a little louder from. Yeah, it's very bizarre. It's very bizarre. Because of the way that StreamYard works, it functions best using Chrome for tab sharing, and especially I think Chrome is the only browser through which you can actually play videos. So I have to use Chrome, especially for like a TEDx talk or something. But if I open up another browser, whether it's Firefox, and apparently now the one that opened up there was Edge, because I was clicking off Twitter, and Twitter is tied to Edge. It does something goofy to the broadcast. So I have to be very careful not to click on anything that's going to open up a Firefox tab or something else, because it'll just make everything go nuts. So anyway, yeah, so Japan tried to send a lunar lander up, apparently. A Japanese lunar lander. Thankfully not holding people, else that would be bigger news, carrying a rover developed in the United Arab Emirates, attempted to find its footing on the moon's surface Tuesday and potentially mark the world's first lunar landing for a commercially developed spacecraft. But flight controllers on the ground were not immediately able to regain contact, prompting the company to presume the spacecraft was lost. The lander, built by Japanese firm iSpace, I think that's an I, I'll assume it's an I, not a lowercase l, launched atop a SpaceX rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida on December 11th. The spacecraft then made a 3-month trek to enter orbit around the moon, which lies about 239,000 miles, or 383,000 kilometers, for those of you that use the devil's arithmetic, from Earth using a low-energy trajectory. Oh, so it was like a Jeb Bush trajectory? Yeah, you get that one? Boy, I'm pretty quick on my feet for being all sleep dead. Anyway, overall, the journey took the lander about 870,000 miles through space. Touchdown was expected to occur Tuesday at 12:40 p.m. Eastern, which is Wednesday at 1:40 a.m. Japan Standard Time. Minutes passed as the mission control team worked to regain contact with the vehicle after an expected communications blackout. About 20 minutes after the planned landing time, iSpace CEO Takeshi Hakamada delivered an update. Quote, "We have not been able to confirm successful landing," he said. "We have to assume that we could not complete the landing on the lunar surface. Our engineers continue to investigate the situation," unquote. He added that his team was able to gather data from the vehicle right up until the attempted landing, a, quote, "great achievement," unquote, that should help inform future iSpace missions. The lunar lander, called Hakuto R, was carrying the Rashid rover, the first Arab-built lunar spacecraft, which was built by Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center in Dubai. In history, only 3 countries have ever executed a controlled landing on the moon: the United States, the former Soviet Union, and China. The U.S. remains the only country to have put humans on the moon. Japan's iSpace had a different approach from prior lunar missions, attempting to land its spacecraft on the moon as a for-profit business rather than under the banner of a single country. The company had shared mission updates on its Twitter account, including a recent photograph of Earth peeking out from behind the moon that was captured by the spacecraft as it traveled through lunar orbit. Yeah, that's what I see every night and every morning because I live on the moon. The moon! The Lunar Exploration Company had been bracing for mishaps. Quote, "Recognizing the possibility of an anomaly during the mission, the results will be weighed and evaluated against the criteria and incorporated into future missions already in development between now and 2025, the company noted in a December 11th post. If successful, the 22-pound Rashid rover had been expected to emerge from the lunar lander and spend, quote, "most of the 14-day lunar daytime exploring the Atlas crater on the northeast of the moon," according to the European Space Agency, which helped design the rover's wheels. Quote, "The Rashid rover is equipped with one high-resolution camera on its front mast and another mounted on its rear, as well as a microscopic camera and thermal imaging camera," ESA said. "It also carries a Langmuir probe to sample the plasma environment prevailing just above the lunar surface." Well, it did until it crashed, and now it can't do anything. Let's see. Japan's iSpace is one of several companies that competed in the Google Lunar X Prize, which offered a $20 million reward to the company that could put a robotic rover on the moon, travel a couple thousand feet, and transmit data back to Earth. Well, there goes $20 million and however much it took to send the thing up there in the first place. The Google-sponsored competition was scrapped in 2018. Oh, but iSpace was among the companies that chose to continue pursuing the mission. Why did they scrap it? Well, like Google can't afford $20 million, just hold it in trust or something? Okay. Israel-based company SpaceIL, or SpaceIL, was the first X Prize contestant to attempt to put its lander on the moon after the program ended. Its Bereshit, whatever, spacecraft crashed in 2019 after ground teams lost contact with the lander as it approached the surface. Now, it's really me. I use them for skeet target practice. That's all it is. You know, people try to send lunar rovers up here and everything else. Anything less than sending up a stage into building a new moon base so I can have some neighbors, I don't care. It's done. I'm not going to allow it. No. That same year, the Indian Space and Research Organization lost contact with a lunar lander shortly before it was slated to touch down on the moon. Communications with the spacecraft were never regained, and images from NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter later revealed the crash site and final resting place of the mission. Yeah, well, I have some good aim. What can I tell you? A mission to retrieve lunar soil samples on behalf of NASA's Artemis program, which intends to use commercial lunar landers to explore the moon's surface, is part of iSpace's future plans. Well, there you go. Yeah, nobody's going to get up here unless it's America. That's right. It's got to be America. America. Let's see. Bridget. Scribelight Rashid is actually based on the original Hakuto R rover, the one built at my current university. Oh, yeah, that's right. You are over in Japan. Well, cool. That's interesting. Neato keen. They also plan to launch again next year. Please let them land. My professor wants a moon base. Okay, well, you know what? All right, I'll make an exception. In fact, I had nothing to do with the crashing of this one, if you can believe it. But and for anybody listening, I'm being facetious. I'm not actually shooting down the rovers as they try to attempt to approach the moon. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not actually doing that. I'm just sitting back in my lunar lazy boy and just watching things go by. It's just, bad math. That's all it is. Let's see. Kyler or Killer. Good grief, Scribelight. Stop shooting down visitors. People will talk. I know. Well, I'm a cantankerous old man. I'm like Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. Get off my lawn. Yeah. Bridget, it's suspected they ran out of fuel at the last stage. Well, then somebody made a miscalculation. Obviously. Let's see. Hate Camel. If you want your rover to land on the moon without Scribe shooting it down, send a redhead. Yeah. As soon as astronaut Lilith Lust comes along, oh man, open arms. Moon base with Lilith Lust. Tell you what. And that's just, and don't ask me how I know this. I'm talking about the redhead, not anybody else that uses that name. Talking about the young redhead, because that name apparently is in use by other people, and I no. Anyway, not to go too far into that. You're ridiculous, lunatic. 239,000 miles to get to the moon on average in a straight line, which isn't how space travel works. Well, yeah, I mean they said eventually you had to go 800 some odd thousand miles. So, if you're going as the crow flies, not the Harlan crow flies, but the crow flies, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. As Kiverdam says, get quiet neighbors. Yeah, I wish I could. I wish I had that power, that decision-making ability. But unfortunately, I just have to deal with what I deal. Maybe tonight's events will set the course for a better experience going forward. I don't think it will, but you never know. But now it is 2 a.m, just a bit after. I've got about 2 hours till I have to start thinking about work stuff again, because we have clients on the East Coast and elsewhere where that becomes necessary that I start operating at around 4:30 in the morning. And so everyone, I'm going to call it here. If you'd like to hear more from me, well, who knows? I might be up again tomorrow night, depending on what goes on. Who knows? But otherwise, scheduled for sure, you can find me here Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I take a look at off-brand TED Talks for information and education. I call it mental masochism or something. And then Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, I do the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays, so I can talk about a thing I want to talk about. And this week, unless something else comes to the fore, I've got another digest of articles regarding our beloved vice president. And as I've mentioned in the past, and will probably mention for months and months to come, at this point should be looked at and scrutinized as a presidential candidate, given the health and age of our current incumbent president going into the next election. So we'll see on that. Otherwise, everyone, again, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you so much for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Boy, oh boy. I hope all of you awake at this hour along with me. I hope you all get good sleep at some point, if you haven't already, because it's no fun not getting sleep. Tell me about it. I hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. That's what it is now, Wednesday. I gotta pick the TEDx today. Sometime in the next 24 hours, or less 24 hours, I gotta pick the next TEDx. What will it be? I don't know. You'll find out with me in a little while. And I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.